On a quiet Saturday afternoon, May 21, 2016, Douglas Dietrich, a 35-year-old man, made his way to the Ledgeview Police Station in Brown County, Wisconsin. At 4:30 p.m., he approached the authorities with a heavy heart, concerned about the whereabouts of his partner, Nicole Vander Heiden, a 31-year-old teacher. Nicole, the mother of their 6-month-old son Dylan, as well as Michaela and Tyler from a previous relationship, had not returned from an evening out with friends, leaving Douglas and the family worried. Douglas shared with the police that the couple had planned to spend the previous evening together, but ended up parting ways at some point during the night. Upon returning to their shared home to find Nicole's absence, Douglas hoped she might have decided to stay with a friend for the night. The delay in contacting the police, he explained, was due to his initial belief that Nicole would return home safely. As the police began to piece together the events and started a search for Nicole, they were alerted to a concerning discovery made earlier that day. Richard van der Heij, a local farmer, had come across something unexpected in his farm field on Hoffman Road in Bellevue, just a short distance from where Nicole lived. This discovery prompted an urgent investigation as the authorities worked to understand the situation and confirm the identity of the individual found, amidst growing concern for Nicole's well-being. Nicole's condition was heartbreakingly beyond recognition, and it became necessary to use dental records to confirm her identity. Tragically, it was indeed Nicole who had been found. The cause of her departure was determined to be due to overwhelming injuries. The scene bore witness to her struggles, with signs of distress evident across her surroundings. As the inquiry deepened, authorities meticulously combed through Douglas's life, examining his home, vehicle, and engaging with those who knew him. They pieced together Nicole and Douglas's last known activities, learning that they had entrusted their young one to a sitter to enjoy an evening out, looking forward to a night of music with friends. The night's plan was simple: meet with friends and attend a concert at a local venue, starting the evening with high spirits at a bar in Green Bay. After the concert, Nicole and Douglas planned to continue their evening at the Sardine Can on South Broadway, yet Douglas chose to stay behind with his friend Greg Matthew at their previous spot. Nicole, though initially disappointed, tried to make the most of her night, evident from surveillance footage showing her dancing and engaging with friends at the Sardine Can. Her frustration with Douglas escalated, reflected in text messages, where she expressed feelings of being overpowered and mistrusted by him. Despite promises to meet up, Nicole's attempts to reach Douglas went unanswered, save for a quick response to a mutual friend, intensifying her feelings of neglect. Deciding to leave the venue around 11:30 p.m., Nicole ventured off alone despite a friend's attempt to convince her otherwise. Her departure from the bar marked the last time her friends would see her, as she was captured on a call, making her way up the street and turning left at its end. Authorities scoured surveillance to trace Douglas and Greg's movements, noting their arrival at the Sardine Can later on, where they briefly stayed before departing. The investigation then shifted focus to whether Nicole made it home and what subsequently unfolded. At Nicole's home, investigators unearthed clues hinting at a tragic scenario. Among these were a pair of Air Jordans, marked and stained in a way that suggested a violent encounter. The pattern on the shoes was eerily similar to injuries found, suggesting a struggle took place. Additionally, traces of what seemed to be blood were found in the garage and Nicole's car, leading detectives to theorize about the events leading to Nicole's departure from her home to the place where she was found. This evidence painted a grim picture of Nicole's final moments and pointed investigators towards understanding the sequence of events that night, with the hope of uncovering the truth behind this heartbreaking incident. In the days following the heart-wrenching discovery of Nicole's remains, a neighbor came forward with a startling find that could potentially aid the investigation. They stumbled upon a charging cord and clumps of blonde hair adorned with droplets of blood in their garden, alongside additional blood spots on their driveway. Upon closer inspection, authorities also found hairpins and wire pieces in the vicinity, raising more questions about the events leading to Nicole's tragic end. Not far from the scene, Nicole's belongings were uncovered in a state that echoed the grim circumstances of her discovery. Her clothing dirtied and stained, scattered along a highway ramp, with her purse and cell phone nearby. This led to Douglas's immediate detention, as suspicions mounted against him, with authorities bracing to charge him with the gravest of accusations upon confirmation from DNA analyses. However, the investigation took a bewildering turn. DNA tests unveiled that the genetic material found, notably on Nicole's socks and other personal items, pointed to an unknown individual, not Douglas. Further scrutiny into the evidence collected from their home, Nicole's car, and the surrounding area painted a different picture than initially feared. Nicole's car showed no signs of having been used that fateful night, and the ominous markings in the garage were debunked as non-human. Even the blood found on the discovered shoes did not match Nicole's, casting doubt on the initial suspicions harboured against Douglas. A crucial piece of evidence came from an unexpected source: Douglas's Fitbit. Forensic analysis by Tyler Bailing revealed that during the critical hours of that morning, Douglas's physical activity was minimal, contradicting the notion of his involvement in any violent act against Nicole. This revelation, along with the absence of any direct link to the crime, necessitated Douglas's release, leaving the authorities at a crossroads, confronted with the daunting task of finding justice for Nicole as the trail leading to her assailant grew colder. Relief came when a significant lead emerged, transforming the direction of the investigation. 3 months after the tragic loss of Nicole, a pivotal update was shared with the police by the crime lab. They had managed to isolate and analyze DNA from one of Nicole's socks, comparing it against national databases where they found a match. The DNA belonged to George Stephen Birch, a recent Virginia transplant to Wisconsin. This discovery prompted the question: how was George connected to Nicole? Further scrutiny revealed George's entanglement in another investigation by the Green Bay Police Department concerning a vehicle linked to him that was found abandoned and aflame after being involved in a hit-and-run incident. On June 8, 2016, George was questioned about this incident. He maintained his innocence, asserting he had spent the evening at a bar, occupied with text conversations with a woman. To corroborate his alibi, George consented to police scrutiny of his text messages, simplifying the process by allowing them to download the data directly from his phone. This crucial piece of evidence, retained in George's file, became a cornerstone for investigators working Nicole's case. Upon learning of the data's existence, they delved into it, uncovering an email linked to a Google account. The digital footprint left behind painted a timeline of his actions on the night Nicole vanished. Starting at Richard Cranium's bar, only a short distance from where Nicole was last seen, George's night took a dark turn as his presence was digitally traced to Nicole's home, then to the secluded farm field, and finally to the highway off-ramp where Nicole's personal effects were scattered. Arrested and faced with undeniable evidence, George's plea of innocence was met with skepticism. The trial brought Douglas back into the narrative, not as a suspect, but as a key witness to the nature of his and Nicole's relationship. His testimony shed light on their personal struggles and the events leading up to Nicole's disappearance. As the trial unfolded, the narrative took the courtroom through the haunting hours following Nicole's disappearance, detailed through the actions of Douglas and those close to him. Despite their efforts to find Nicole after losing track of her, Douglas and Greg's visit to the sardine can ended in vain, finding neither Nicole nor their friends. Opting to linger for drinks, they left the bar in the early hours, with Douglas arriving home past 2:30 a.m, where he and the babysitter faced the silence of unanswered calls to Nicole. Douglas's morning began with the routine care of his son, shadowed by Nicole's absence and the unanswered echoes of his attempts to reach her. His report of Nicole missing that afternoon painted a picture of a concerned partner, a narrative corroborated by the officer who highlighted Douglas's cooperative and visibly distressed demeanour upon learning of the grim discovery believed to be Nicole. In contrast, the prosecution's portrayal of George Stephen Birch painted a chilling picture of premeditation and violence. The trial's revelations included George's DNA on crucial evidence, his movements traced via digital footprints to Nicole's last known locations, and an internet history obsessively following the news of Nicole's demise. The prosecution argued that George's intentions turned violent upon Nicole's rejection, leading to a brutal assault that ended Nicole's life on her own driveway, later moving her to a remote field to obscure his heinous act. Photographs presented in court of George's demeanour post-event and the medical examiner's testimony on Nicole's extensive injuries further solidified the prosecution's case against him. Meanwhile, the defence pointed fingers at Douglas, suggesting a narrative of jealousy and that clashed with the evidence laid out by the prosecution. In a dramatic turn of events during the trial, the defence introduced a narrative that starkly contrasted with the prosecution's case, bringing forth testimony from the babysitter and an account from George himself that painted a complex picture of the night Nicole met her tragic end. George's testimony offered a different sequence of events, asserting a consensual encounter with Nicole that was interrupted, leading to her death and implicating Douglas in a confrontation that followed. George's narrative of being attacked and coerced at gunpoint by Douglas to dispose of Nicole's body introduced a twist to the trial, challenging the jury to consider multiple perspectives on the events of that fateful night. The defense's strategy aimed to sow doubt about George's guilt by highlighting inconsistencies and potential motives tied to Douglas, including the peculiar interest in the cords used in the crime, raising questions about the evidence presented. However, the jury's deliberation ultimately led to a conviction of George Stephen Birch for first-degree intentional, culminating in a life sentence without parole for George, a decision underscored by the judge's remarks on the brutality of the crime. Nicole van der Heiden's tragic passing at the hands of a monster was cruel and undeserved, and George is now serving the rest of his natural life in prison, never to be released. Please comment your thoughts on the case below, whilst remaining respectful to Nicole and her family. We release videos every Friday, so please subscribe and hit the bell icon if you don't want to miss our next upload. Thank you for watching.